Have you ever felt trapped in a relationship that's comfortable, yet somehow holding you back? Have you questioned whether someone close to you is truly helping you grow or just keeping you in place? If holding on hurts more than letting go, maybe it's time to listen to the quiet wisdom within. It's a tough truth to face, realizing that sometimes the people we've lived with, cried with, and built countless memories with may not be meant to walk with
us forever. Painful as it is, this is where the ancient wisdom of Stoicism steps in like a lantern in the dark.
The Stoics, with their deep understanding of human nature and the path to a meaningful life, remind us that personal growth often demands tough decisions, especially about who we allow into our inner circle. But this isn't about cutting people off with cold detachment. It's about curating our relationships with intention, choosing to surround ourselves with people who lift us higher, challenge us, and help us become our best selves. So if you find yourself at a crossroads, facing a choice that could redefine your life's path, know that you're not alone. Today, we dive deep into the heart of Stoic wisdom, exploring the subtle signs that it's time to lovingly release certain ties, to create space for new growth, richer connections, and a life aligned with your highest virtues. Walk with me as we embark on this journey, one where Stoicism becomes your compass, pointing you toward the freedom and peace that come from choosing relationships with wisdom and courage. And if you're ready to take that first step toward clarity, strength, and healing, hit that subscribe button, share this message with someone who needs it, and watch this video all the way through. Because any moment might just be the one that transforms your life. Previously, we explored how negative emotions in relationships don't have to define us, because we always have the power to choose our response. Now let's take that wisdom and apply it in real life. Everything begins with awareness. The moment you feel overwhelmed by anger, jealousy, or emotional exhaustion, pause. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What is this emotion teaching me? How can I respond in a way that reflects the person I want to become? These questions aren't easy, but they're essential. And sometimes the healthiest response isn't confrontation. It's creating space, or even walking away. This isn't about running from discomfort. It's about facing reality. If a relationship drags you into cycles of negativity instead of lifting you up, it's time to reassess. You haven't failed. The other person isn't your villain. Some relationships aren't meant to last every season of our lives, and that's okay. The Stoics often spoke about living in harmony with nature.
And nature teaches us that things evolve. Leaves fall, rivers shift. Sometimes growth requires us to grow apart, not in bitterness, but in grace. So if you find yourself trapped in a web of emotional strain, remember Marcus Aurelius is timeless.
Insight. You have power over your mind, not outside events. That power includes the ability to choose relationships that nourish your well-being, not drain it. Let's not let drama define what we call connection. Instead, let's build relationships based on mutual support, deep understanding, and shared respect. Because in the end, the relationships that matter most are those that help us become who we're truly meant to be. Next, we tackle a deeper layer of truth. What happens when your freedom, autonomy, and voice begin to disappear in a relationship? Let's explore this through the powerful lens of Epictetus and the Stoic view of self-mastery. After discussing how to reclaim your autonomy from controlling dynamics, now it's time to look deeper at how someone's presence consistently makes you feel. If you often leave conversations drained, anxious, or questioning your worth, that's a red flag you shouldn't ignore. healthy connections, the kind we all deserve, should feel supportive, uplifting, and energizing. They're meant to help us thrive, not weigh us down. They're supposed to be safe havens, not war zones filled with confusion, stress, or silence that speaks volumes. The Stoics championed harmony with nature, including our own inner nature, and believed that our relationships should align with the pursuit of virtue and tranquility. So if someone in your life constantly pulls you away from peace, purpose, and your best self, it's time to ask, is this helping me grow? Or is it slowly breaking me down? Ask yourself honestly, does this relationship align with my values? Does it help me evolve into the person I strive to become? Or is it draining my energy, leaving me depleted and doubting myself? If the answer leans toward the latter, this doesn't mean you're failing. On the contrary, it takes courage and self-awareness to acknowledge when something is no longer serving your highest good. Not every struggle means it's time to walk away. But if that struggle is constant, if love has been replaced by tension and understanding replaced by resentment, something must change, and the core of any enduring relationship is mutual respect. Without it, no foundation can stand. You might have love, you might have history, but if respect is missing, the structure will crumble. The Stoics deeply believed in honoring the inherent worth of every human being. If you're being treated as less than you are, that's not just hurtful, it's degrading to your very humanity. So ask yourself, am I being true to myself by staying in this dynamic? Am I honoring my worth by tolerating behavior that undermines it? If the answer is
no, then it may be time for change.
Not necessarily a goodbye, but perhaps a boundary, a real conversation, or a realization that it's time to move on. Respecting yourself isn't selfish, it's stoic. It's about living with integrity and demanding that the relationships around you reflect the same standard of virtue you hold for yourself. Up next, we confront a particularly painful emotional truth. What happens when love remains but pain grows stronger, and every interaction feels like walking on eggshells? Let's dive into that. Previously, we explored the critical role of mutual respect. Now, we dive deeper into something even more personal, facing the illusions we often build around our relationships. At its core, Stoicism is about acceptance of life, relationships, and reality as they are, not as we wish they would be. The Stoics believed there is deep freedom and strength in seeing things clearly, without the rosy filter of wishful thinking or denial. So what does this mean for your relationships? It means asking the tough questions. Is this relationship grounded in truth? Or am I holding on to a fantasy? Am I ignoring red flags, excusing behaviors, or seeing someone for who I hope they'll become instead of who they truly are? Being tied to illusions is like walking toward a shimmering oasis in the desert, only to discover it's a mirage. Beautiful from afar, but empty up close. That doesn't mean you can't hope. Hope has its place, but there's a fine line between hopeful aspiration and emotional self-deception, one that pulls you away from truth and real connection. The Stoics would urge you to face the truth even when it's uncomfortable. And yes, it takes immense courage to admit that a relationship isn't what you believed. But in that truth lies your chance at real, lasting love, the kind rooted in authenticity, not illusion. Maybe the person you're with isn't who you thought. Maybe the connection no longer aligns with your values. As painful as that realization might be, it frees you. It gives you the chance to love and be loved as your true self, not as a version crafted to keep a fantasy alive. So pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what's real in this relationship? What have I imagined or clung to out of fear of letting go? And how is this affecting my happiness and mental peace? Stoicism isn't about giving up. It's about gaining peace by living in truth, by aligning your life with reality, not illusion. You gain clarity, strength, and direction that fantasy can never offer. And once you've seen the truth for what it is, the next step is even more defining. What if this relationship is now asking you to compromise your values, the very principles that guide your life? Let's examine that in the next part. Once you've faced the truth of a relationship, the next critical question arises: is this relationship pushing you to betray your values, the very foundation of who you are? If you're being asked to compromise your principles just to keep someone around, it's time to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, is this relationship aligned with my highest good? Am I growing and thriving, or shrinking and bending just to maintain peace? This is not an easy space to navigate, especially when love and emotion are involved. But this is where Stoic wisdom becomes your ally. It encourages us to step back, detach from the emotional fog, and examine our relationships through the lens of our core values. And here's something important. Walking away from a relationship that asks you to betray your values is not failure. It's self-respect in action. It's a powerful declaration that you hold yourself to a standard, one that honors your integrity and demands the same from those around you. The Stoics, from Marcus Aurelius to Seneca, believed that virtue and integrity aren't just lofty ideas. They're tools, practical, clear, and meant to guide our decisions daily. So if you find yourself trapped in a dynamic where small compromises are adding up, where you're slowly losing pieces of who you are just to keep someone happy, stop, reflect. Because that slow erosion will eventually leave you unrecognizable even to yourself. You deserve relationships that support your values, not erode them. That uplift your identity, not demand you mold into someone else. Let's challenge ourselves to live boldly with the kind of personal honor the Stoics admired. Let's ensure our relationships reflect the values we live by, not contradict them. Up next, we'll explore one of the most overlooked yet essential elements of a healthy relationship: reciprocity. What happens when you're constantly giving but never receiving? Now that we've reflected on the importance of value-based relationships, we must address one of the most serious breaches of those principles: abuse in any form. Stoicism teaches us that when fundamental values are violated, the right response is not revenge or rage, but respect for ourselves and for the dignity of human life. Abuse, whether physical, emotional, verbal, or psychological, is a direct attack on that dignity. It seeks to diminish the victim's sense of self, to control, to instill fear, and that stands in stark opposition to everything Stoicism upholds. So what is the Stoic response? It's not vague or passive. Leaving an abusive relationship is not only important, it's necessary. It is a choice rooted in virtue, in reclaiming your life, and in honoring your own value as a human being. Of course, this is far easier said than done. Leaving such a relationship is one of the hardest decisions a person can make. It takes immense courage, inner strength, and often the support
of others.
That's where Stoicism reminds us: seek the guidance of those who've walked this path, or of professionals who can offer real support. Seeking help is never weakness. It is strength in its truest form, a declaration that your well-being matters. Stoicism doesn't stop at the exit door. It also guides the healing process. It reminds us that while we may not control others' actions, we do control how we move forward, how we rebuild, how we reclaim our self-respect and peace. Healing from abuse is itself a Stoic journey. It's a return to control, to self-awareness, and to living in alignment with the values that define you, not the wounds that tried to break you. And if you're someone currently living in an abusive situation, know this: it is not your fault. You are not alone. And taking action to leave is the highest form of self-respect. Let us remember the Stoic duty to protect our inner fortress, to live with dignity, and to build a life not just free of harm, but rich in meaning, virtue, and deep personal worth. Up next, we face another silent destroyer of relationships. When communication breaks down and mutual understanding fades away, how do we restore it? The Stoic way? Continuing the Stoic emphasis on protecting our inner peace, let's now confront a reality that's all too common but often ignored. When the relationship that should bring calm and comfort begins to feel like a constant storm. Picture this. You're in a relationship that doesn't soothe your soul, but instead stirs up stress, arguments, and emotional unrest. The very connection that was supposed to support you now leaves you feeling exhausted, guarded, and mentally drained. That's not just discomfort. That's a wake-up call, a moment to pause and ask, what is this relationship really doing to me? Stoicism, a philosophy built on centuries of wisdom, teaches that peace of mind is essential for a good life. True Stoics aren't trying to avoid every challenge, but rather they train their minds to stay balanced despite them. So, what do you do when a relationship consistently shatters your tranquility? First, Stoicism urges you to step back and observe. With clarity, not emotion, ask yourself, why does this connection disturb my peace? Is it their behavior? Are there unresolved conflicts? Or is it perhaps your own expectations and emotional responses at play? This self-examination moves you from reaction to reflection. And once the root cause becomes clear, you must consider, can this be fixed? Can honest communication help? Do new boundaries need to be set? And here's the truth. Stoicism doesn't tell you to accept everything. It teaches acceptance of what can't be changed, but it also empowers you to act where you can. If, even after effort and reflection, the relationship still breeds unrest, then perhaps it's time to question its place in your life. This is not giving up. This is being courageous enough to recognize misalignment between your values and what this relationship offers. Letting go of such a connection is not an act of cruelty. It's an act of deep self-respect. And the goal isn't to eliminate every discomfort from life. It's to build an inner fortress strong enough to face them with poise. The people we keep close should reinforce our peace, not destroy it. They should help us grow, ground us, and uplift us, not leave us battling constant emotional chaos. So if you find yourself consistently agitated by a relationship, take it as an opportunity to practice Stoic wisdom. Pause, reflect, and then choose the path that leads to peace. Let's surround ourselves with people who bring calm, clarity, and joy. And in doing so, honor not just Stoic teachings, but the sacred journey of our own lives.